Hey, Larken Rose here. This is going to make some of you uncomfortable, and I want it to make you uncomfortable, and I want you to examine the discomfort you feel and actually study it and see if logically it makes any sense. Some of you may have guessed that the title of this video, More Equal Than Others, is a reference to Animal Farm, where the piggies, seems appropriate, for a while had this thing, all animals are equal. And then some of them were pointing out, well, then how come you get to boss the rest of us around? Oh, because some are more equal than others. So that's what that's a reference to. But that's just a silly children's story, and like people would never fall for that. Well, I want to talk about exactly how people fall for it and how you, in all likelihood, fell for it. And I will start with the example of if you see a news story that says, oh, somebody got shot. And so far, that's all you know. So let's say shot and killed. Somebody got shot and killed, and that's all you know. You haven't read the story yet, like who did the shooting, who got shot, why, any of that. Now, you might naturally, instinctively have a negative reaction and just say, well, it's sad that we live in a society where people are shooting each other. Like, generally speaking, people taking other people's lives is not a good thing. It's not a great sign of the state of things. But for the specifics of the story, you'd probably immediately be curious and say, well, who shot who and why? Was it mistaken identity? Was it self-defense? Was it someone being a violent, immoral aggressor? What actually happened? But suppose you saw a story where all you knew so far is a law enforcer was killed in the line of duty. Do you feel anything different if you hear that? Or do you assume that that's just an inherently horrible, dreadful thing? Again, there's something inherently wrong about people needing to shoot each other, even if it's justified. But beyond that, does the idea of a cop getting shot automatically register in your brain differently than anybody else getting shot, without even knowing the details, without having any idea what actually happened? Because if you read a story about a normal person getting shot and then you read the story and said, oh, he was like violently attacking somebody else and his intended victim shot him, okay, most people would go, well, it's still kind of unfortunate that it happened at all. But yeah, if the victim, if that's all he could do to prevent being victimized, okay, good. It's better than allowing himself to be victimized by some violent psycho. However, if the violent psycho has a badge, lots of you would get uncomfortable about the idea that maybe the cop killer was the good guy. And by the way, I've seen lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of videos where psychotic, violent, evil aggressors with badges did things that would have absolutely justified somebody else shooting them and killing them on purpose to defend either themselves or somebody else who was the target of immoral authoritarian thuggery. But are you able to hear that and think about that and not feel some sort of discomfort of, well, that's the exception. We can't, blah, blah, blah. If so, you were trained to think that way because you were trained to think that some people are more equal than others. Namely, people who represent the law, who represent authority, who represent government. And if your brain judges that differently just based on that, oh, this wasn't a mere mortal living his life where we would judge the use of force against him based on, well, did he do something horrible? Did someone need to stop him from doing something horrible? Or was he doing something good and somebody killed him, somebody bad killed him? If automatically you're biased, even just at the feels level, even if not intellectually, even if at the feels level you go, oh, a cop got shot, look at your own indoctrination. Why would that automatically make it worse? Now, you might wish that police were all these noble saviors that you see on cop shows. They're not, and you know they're not. You know that even if you don't really want to admit it out loud. The most zealous cop supporter knows cops do a lot of nasty things. In fact, I dare say they violently attack and assault and threaten other people way more often than non-law enforcement does, per capita. Because the average cop goes around day after day, pulling people over, stopping people, interrogating people, threatening to use force against them if they don't comply. Normal people don't do that. I don't do that. I bet you don't do that. I bet you don't walk around randomly detaining people under the threat of violence so where have you been and where are you going and what are you doing and can I find some reason to arrest you or fine you or something? I'm guessing you don't treat your neighbors that way. But you've been trained to think that, well, those people are allowed to do that. In fact, they're supposed to do that. That's their job, enforcing the law. And therefore, when they constantly harass and intimidate and threaten people, it's okay. And if somebody resists that, oh, that's horrible, that's dreadful. If you feel that way, then you think some people are more equal than others, and you fell for the authoritarian propaganda. But I want to go one step further and make you more uncomfortable. First, I'm going to throw in the punchline, which is you are trained to think that way from the time you're young. You are trained to think that way and feel that way by the ruling class for the specific purpose of getting the situation to where you will not resist injustice if the aggressors have badges. You are literally being trained to passively tolerate legalized evil in situations where you wouldn't put up with that crap if somebody without a badge tried it. Kidnapping, assault, attempted murder, whatever. You would feel perfectly justified in defending yourselves, but you need to be trained to feel bad about defending yourself or hearing about somebody else defending themselves against the thug who happens to have a badge. But let me take this one step more uncomfortable. So you're supposed to look to authority for protection. The law, government, they're here to protect and serve. Okay, well, you have the low-level mindless enforcers known as law enforcement, and then the mindless enforcers known as the troops, who you're also supposed to feel really bad about if you hear that an American soldier was shot overseas. A hell of a lot of American soldiers have done things overseas which absolutely earned them a bullet in the frickin' head. Like, huge numbers of them deserved to be killed by the people living in the places that they were violently invading. Again, if that makes you uncomfortable because of their job, it's because you were indoctrinated into feeling that way. If I went over to some foreign country as just me and I was kicking down doors with an M16 and pointing it at people's faces, I just want to make sure that you're not up to no good or something. If I did that on my own and the person who lives there in whatever country that happened in shot me in the head, you'd probably say, well, serves Larken right. Probably shouldn't have been doing that, barging into people's houses and threatening them for no reason. Yeah, that would be true. And if I was a member of the troops and worked for the U.S. military and did the same damn thing, it would still be my damn fault if someone shot me in the head because I barged into their living room with a machine gun just to make sure they weren't bad people. But even above offending you regarding cops and offending you regarding the troops, I want to take it to the ultimate level. Suppose, for example, that you knew personally, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the President of the United States, how shall I word this to not get the video taken down, had done truly despicable things to people who were well under the age of 18. You all know what I'm talking about. Now, there are allegations, there are charges, there are court filings about exactly that. Personally, I don't know if those are true. People can make accusations. I do not have any personal firsthand evidence either way. I can guess what I think is credible, but that's not the point of this question. This question is, if you all the way knew, like you were there, you saw it, there's zero doubt in your mind, you absolutely 100% knew that the President of the United States committed a crime like that, would you feel justified in killing him? Now, let's back up and make the question be about absolutely anybody else. You found out somebody in your neighborhood had done such a thing. You caught them doing so. You saw them doing such a thing, and you were armed. Now, whether you would, maybe you're a pacifist or whatever, so maybe there's other reasons you would, or just you couldn't bring yourself to take a human life even if it was a total scumbag. But do you think it would be morally righteous for you or some other random person, if they stumbled on that and they found that and they saw that happening and they knew it was happening, do you think it would be morally justified for them to just end that despicable, evil piece of crap's life? I do. Does the question make you uncomfortable if the perpetrator holds high office and is a congressman or a governor or president of the United States? Would that suddenly become, oh, well, if you have that job description, then we certainly can't forcibly stop you from absolutely heinous atrocities because you're a big important person. You're more equal than others. You're not just a mere peasant. You're the emperor. The king. The president. So we can't even talk about that, and we can't even think about that. Who do you suppose benefits from having a population of people incapable of considering the possibility of having to use brute force against people in power who are caught doing absolutely heinous things? Who benefits from that? Evil psychos. And you can see the effects of the indoctrination. When the rumors come out, when the accusations come out, people can say, well, I believe them, or well, I don't believe them, or whatever else. But almost everybody, even the people who are like, that's horrible, I think he's a horrible person, he would probably do that. Even they think he should be prosecuted. Okay, by who? Well, by the ones who prosecute people. Who's that? Government. You mean the government that guy controls and is the boss of? The Department of Justice that answers to him? You think they're going to prosecute him for such a thing? Have you not noticed that the king's guards answer to the king? Even if you change the names and the titles, that's been the state of things for centuries and centuries and centuries? And more importantly, do you think that actually doing something about somebody in power doing something that heinous is only justified and proper if you do it by way of the legal system that those people control? I bet this is making some of you uncomfortable. So I'm going to say what I think out loud. If I had absolute proof that a certain president did a certain thing, you can look up court filings describing it. Again, I don't know if that happened or not, but I know somebody's sworn testimony said it did. Doesn't mean it did. I would have my guesses. I would never use force against somebody else based on a guess. But if I all the way factually, indisputably knew that what those court filings say were an accurate depiction of reality, I would absolutely 100% feel completely morally justified in assassinating the President of the United States. Okay, Secret Service, just to make this clear, I'm talking about normal people having the right to kill the President of the United States if he does anything that would make it justified to kill anybody else for doing such a thing. Weirdly, you get some completely demented Republicans right now who are literally making excuses and saying, oh, okay, maybe if he did these horrible things, but this is so important we have to kind of look the other way, and I still wouldn't want him out of power. That level of just insane bootlicking, luckily, I don't think it's all that common, but I've seen some do it. So anybody like going, oh, how can he say that? How can he talk about killing his Lord God Almighty, the President of the United States? It doesn't matter who it is, by the way. It has nothing to do with the current clown versus any other clown, because almost every clown that's been there has probably done evil crap that would be absolutely deserving of people knocking them off. Most of us don't have proof of it, so we wouldn't be justified without proof. But if you can say, yeah, if a normal person did that, I would feel justified in killing him. If they were like victimizing a child in such a heinous way, I would feel justified in killing them. But then the same question, if the perpetrator is congressman or a governor or the president of the United States, do you get uncomfortable with that? No, you might get uncomfortable saying it out loud because you might get a visit from the Secret Service. I might get a visit from the Secret Service, and I'll tell them exactly what I just told you. By the way, it is legal to say this. Yeah, they're controlling my light. Settle down. My ring light is slowly dying. There, I had to stop the Secret Service from controlling my ring light. So the point of this, and I'm not saying I know it, I'm not saying anybody, well, some people probably do, has enough factual proof to make that at all justified. I'm saying if I all the way knew, morality doesn't make a distinction between, well, if the perpetrator has that particular job and holds that particular office, suddenly he's exempt from morality. And I bet almost none of you would say that out loud, and most of you believe it. If you say it out loud, it sounds as dumb and insane as it is, so you don't want to say it out loud. But you believe it if you're at all uncomfortable with the idea of somebody knocking off an evil, despicable predator because of the office he holds. If they were knocking off some normal person doing this heinous crap, you'd be, oh, okay, fine. Maybe you condone it, maybe you wouldn't. You'd probably understand it and go, well, I know why that happened. And there's a number of stories where that's happened. Like the parent of a child who had been victimized in such a way just said, well, whatever happens to me, this is not okay, I'm going to go kill him, and went and killed the one who victimized their child. Good for them. It's pretty pathetic we live in a society where it was up to them because the legal system didn't give a shit, or because the perpetrator had some pull and some influence over the legal system. But this isn't even about this individual case. This is about your ability to objectively observe and morally analyze reality without being so biased by authority that your brain won't even let you think of the possibility of normal people administering some form of justice against perpetrators who are in power. By the way, if the whole world could suddenly see, I don't know how much it even exists still, if the whole world could suddenly see for themselves and know it was genuine, all of the Epstein evidence of all the creepy evil crap he did with all those people in power, and people could all the way know it's genuine, which is a big if, this is a hypothetical, mass extermination of huge numbers of people in power would be absolutely morally justified. Are you okay with thinking that and saying that out loud? If not, why not? If you found out that some street gang, if there was video of a bunch of street gang members doing this horrible thing to a bunch of children, would any part of you hesitate to say, well, they should probably be killed or at least put in cages? If you hesitate more because someone holds a position of authority, you are absolutely still infected with the plague of authoritarianism and the insane propaganda surrounding statism. That you think there's a difference. that those people are somehow special and they're more equal than others, so we can't even talk about doing something like that themselves. The people in power are betting on you and everyone else being so indoctrinated that you can't even think of the possibility that if someone who wields authority does evil crap, it might be up to normal people to do something about it. Because it is, and it always has been, and it always will be. Because ruling classes are never going to police themselves. Rulers are never going to prosecute themselves. Those who wield authority are never going to wield authority against themselves. So at the end of the day, either at some point, the people are able and willing, mentally willing and physically willing, to inflict justice upon evil perpetrators, or the only other option, those in power can do anything they want to anyone they want and get away with it. Those are the two options. Are you even capable of thinking about the first one? Does it make you uncomfortable? And do you apply a different moral standard to the idea of retribution or punishment or whatever you want to call it when the perpetrator wields state power, authoritarian power? They're hoping and hoping and hoping that all you peasants out there would never dream of inflicting justice on these evil bastards yourselves, because they know their own machine, the legal system, law enforcement, Department of Justice, they ain't gonna do shit. They never have and they never will. They will investigate themselves and find that nothing wrong happened. It turns out there wasn't even a list, and he wasn't blackmailing anybody, and he did kill himself. The top law enforcers in the land have assured you. And they're quite confident that even if all of us knew beyond a shadow of a doubt and could prove it, the heinous things that they've done, that none of us would do anything about it. Because, they're more equal than we are. How could us mere peasants ever presume the right to inflict justice on evil psychopaths and victimizers of children if they hold public office?